This is Harry Judd from Boxing Social in association with Betfred. I'm delighted to be joined by Gary Spike O'Sullivan. It's been a long time since you've been on the channel, mate. But first of all, how are we, mate?
Very good, yeah. Yourself?
Not too bad, not too bad. Away from boxing, what's been going on, mate? It's been a long time.
Just the usual for me, family business, taking care of the kids, school runs and you know, that kind of stuff, really. Family life.
Yeah.
I'm actually doing a bit of writing now as well for a newspaper here in Ireland, national newspaper, the leading newspaper actually, the Examiner, the Irish Examiner. So been doing a bit of journalism for them, so I've been enjoying that doing my column.
Yeah, you've just literally taken my question away. So you're moving in now to away from boxing and more of a journalist, Gary.
I'm not quite ready to move away from boxing yet, but it's a good thing on the side, and it's a good learning curve for me, and something that I probably pursue in the future when I do retire from boxing. Yeah.
Is it just boxing, or do you write about all sorts of sports, mate?
Well, just boxing so far. I've done three pieces. I'm working on my fourth actually for Eubank Ben this weekend, and also another fight I've keen interest in would be Sam Allin versus Dennis Hogan. I'd like to fight the winner of that. They're fighting in Australia early hours of Saturday morning, so I'm going to do a little piece on that as well.
Yeah. We will get on to some of that, but yeah, take me back to Brooklyn. Aris Landy Lara. Just looking back on that fight, you fought as we expected, coming forward very positive. Everyone was speaking about that left hook that you tried to land, but yeah, just take me back to your reflection on that fight, mate.
My reflection of that fight, I gave it my best shot. I trained as hard as I could in training camp. I gave it everything I had. Wasn't good enough on the night. He's a superb boxer. I think it's widely regarded. He beat Canelo. He just didn't get the decision. He was just too good for me ultimately, and I always struggled against left-handers too. So I knew that going into the fight. I remember when I fought Billy Joe Saunders back in 2013. I said to my coach Packy, that I'd never fight a left-hander again unless it was for a world title. And that call came. I was actually at I was at an amusements with my children, and it's just slightly a day short of 6 weeks. Packy said, will you fight Aris Landy Lara for the WBA regular world title? I said, of course. So I got my gear together and left and went to Dublin immediately and prepared. I guess I trained only for about 5 weeks because it was just less than 6 weeks notice of the fight. But my reflection anyway of it is I tried my best, just came up short.
You said there was a rematch clause. Is there been conversations in terms of that happening, or what is the situation with that, mate?
I think the rematch clause would have been on his end if he'd lost being the champion, so he could have activated a rematch clause against me. Unfortunately for me, I wasn't the champion. Maybe not unfortunately, I'm not too sure I'm interested in a rematch with him anyway. I've had enough of left-handers. But yeah, it was a bit of a crazy trip in the end. Then after the fight, there was a shooting outside the stadium. We were just ushered into a big, massive lift. We thought we thought it could be like a mass shooting in America, as it so happens so often now these days. So we got ushered into this big, massive lift. Maybe I don't know, maybe around 150 or something like that. It's hard to tell. At the time, there's a bit of panic, a bit of chaos going on. But the shooting happened to be outside, and then the lift went down, and we got left out onto the street. But there was cops everywhere. Whilst we were being ushered into the lift by cops, there was cops running around like crazy. All the fans, I think there was a lot of fans hiding under seats and stuff inside the stadium as well. There was absolute bedlam. Nobody knew exactly what was going on.
Could you hear any of the shooting? When did you know that was going on?
Well, I think the shooting was quite close to where we were, so just people just started running everywhere. It was crazy. I just seen the policemen running so I that was quite frightening, to be honest. Especially they're all armed over there, and it's pretty chaotic.
Well, we spoke before, but again, thanks the Lord that your family were never there, and all of you returned home safely. That's the main thing from that, Gary.
That was the main thing, yeah. The fight didn't really compare to the fright we got on that occasion. It was scary stuff, to be honest.
So when are we likely? What's the plan now in terms of having you back out? You did mention Sam Egerton before this call as well. Is that fight the winner of his next fight something that you'd be after?
I'd like to fight the winner of himself and Dennis Hogan. They fight actually the same night as Eubank and Ben. They're fighting in Australia, as I said. So I'll be keeping a close eye on that one as well. And I'd love to fight the winner, yeah, for sure.
How does he get on in that fight, Sam?
I think he might get beat. You know what? I think factor is his long-term coach, John Pegg. I don't think he's going to be traveling to it because he doesn't fly. You know, I think he went by ferry to one fight he had in France, as far as I know, and I don't see him getting a ferry to Australia, so maybe he won't be there. I think that will be something, because myself, if Paki wasn't there, I wouldn't be too happy about it, you know, and I'd say it will be a bit off-putting for him. Plus, you know, when I had my first fight, I think I've had 17 fights in America or something like that now. When you travel that far for the first time, I think it's takes a bit of getting used to, you know, and I don't know how well Sam is going to cope with that. He is a very experienced fighter. He's at this will be his 40th fight, but you know, I think it's a lot of travel. I don't know how used to traveling he is. Has he ever been in Australia's life? I'm not too sure. Plus, he's the away fighter. Basically, you know, Hogan is on the posters, even though Eglinton is a champion, and it's a Hogan promotion. Basically, all the cards are in his kind of court over there, and you know, if it's a tight decision, maybe he mightn't get it either. Plus, Dennis Hogan is a very good boxer, you know, and he's probably been in with better opposition as well throughout his career. He's fought some big names on his CV there. You know, I think he was very unfortunate not to get the decision actually against Jaime Munguia when they fought back. I think it was 2000, maybe 18, something like that. Something like that. He was unlucky not to get that decision. He's a good operator, Dennis, you know, but he's kind of got busted up a bit in his last fights with Charlo and that, you know, so, and Tizu. So maybe I'm not sure how much he has left either. It's going to be interesting. I'm not exactly sure, but I think it's going to be interesting.
Who would you rather fight?
Well, from a historic point of view, I'd like to fight Dennis Hogan, because it would actually be the first time in history that two Irishmen actually fought against each other for a world title. I think stylistically, myself and Eglinton would probably be a better fight, because Sam is I like both guys. I think they're great guys, both of them actually, and the Sam stylistically, he's up for a war, you know, like myself, and I think stylistically maybe a more exciting fight for the fans, me against Eglinton. But as I said, from a historic point of view, I'd like to maybe fight Hogan, because it'll be the first time in history that two Irishmen fought for a world title against each other.
Would that be in Cork, hopefully, in your end?
I would doubt it very much. I doubt Dennis will come to Cork. He's more up towards Dublin direction. You know, Kildare. He's from Kildare, is closer to Dublin. And that being said, I don't know whether he'd want to fight in Australia, because obviously if he's the champion, he'd hold the cards, and he's promoted a lot of Australia. But I have no trouble traveling. You know, I've always said, like, I have gloves, will travel. I'd be more than happy to go to Australia and fight him. I'll fight anywhere. You know, I've always said that, and you know, I feel as though I've been true to my word. I've been all over the world fighting and fought, you know, all comers really. But I think, really and truly, if that fight did happen and Dennis was to win the fight, me and Dennis were to fight, I think, like, it really should happen in Ireland. They'd be like, you know, I think if it was AJ Fury, that should happen in England. You know, that kind of way. I think, like, you know, for the fans.
Who would have the biggest? Because you've been thankful of your massive support. Who would have the biggest fan base in Dublin?
Oh, I'd say I would. I think I would, yeah.
Would it sell out?
Dennis, would definitely sell out as well, yeah. But Dennis, you know, I'm not sure. I don't think he's fought in Ireland. I think he hasn't. You know, you got to respect that too. He's been all over the world. He's fought everywhere. You know, fought everybody. Kind of like myself, I guess. And but I think I fought a couple of good few fights in Cork and in Dublin, and I think I'd be better known to the Irish boxing fans. I think, anyway. You know.
You mentioned your piece you're writing for the Irish Examiner, the piece on Eubank Ben. I don't want to take away everything that you've written in that piece, but you know, give me just your initial thoughts on that one before we go into it a little bit more.
I just think, you know, Ben, in my opinion, he doesn't have anything on Eubank. Only he probably has. Obviously, he has youth. I think that's probably his only factor that he has in his advantage. And that may not be an advantage, because Eubank's not that old. He's 33. I remember when I was 33, 3, I went to Quebec and smashed up Antoine Douglas, you know, and I felt absolutely, you know, maybe at the best part of my career. So Eubank is probably, you know, maybe probably feeling like that too. So doesn't necessarily mean because Ben has more youth that's the better thing either, you know. And Eubank has far more experience in big fights. You know, I think this is Ben's first fight that I can recall in a big card, top of the card. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe. But it's definitely his biggest fight. I think Eubank is superior in every way. I think he's probably stronger, better boxer, bigger, obviously. One thing I think might be a key factor though would be Eubank when he fought me back in 2015. He struggled to make 160. I remember him struggling on the scales. So this time around he's got to make 157, which is 7 years on, which could be a problem. I think it very well will be a problem for him. And then I see there's a rehydration clause also, even though
£5, and then it's £100,000 for each pound he's over that £5 limit. That's my knowledge of it.
Is that what it is? Yeah, I actually have failed to you know, come across exactly what it is, but I seen an article last night, Eddie Hearn, I think it was like saying like something like £8 or £10 or not sure. Like that would be too bad, you know.
Is the weight is it dangerous in your opinion? Because there are conversations with it being dangerous, obviously, but yeah, just get your thoughts on that one, mate.
I think coming down to 157 might be a bit of maybe a bit dangerous for Eubank, and as well, I think the rehydration clause as well could also be a bit dangerous because, you know, if he's not rehydrated enough, you know, the pouch around his brain, the sac around his brain, his brain could be like a bloody peanut inside a shell, you know, if he's not hydrated enough, and his brain could be bouncing around. Potentially could be dangerous, I guess. I'm not, as I say, I'm not sure exactly what the exact rehydration clause is, but if it's too extreme, obviously it would be dangerous. But hopefully it's not, you know, because, you know, that's the last thing you want to see happen is anybody get hurt.
Take me back then to your the WBA middleweight title eliminator with Chris Eubank. Eubank was 26 at the time. It was a big fight. Eubank Senior said this was the first time. This was probably one of the first times we saw Eubank's chin. And he's been commended on how good his chin is. But again, obviously it's a long time ago now. But just take me back to your memories of that fight, mate. And we'll talk about the build up as well, because that was spectacular as well.
Yeah, he's got a hell of a chin, you know. I got to take my hat off to him and say he's got a hell of a chin. I caught him with some seriously good shots. I remember caught him with an overhand right. I think it might have been the third round, maybe. You know, he took it well. Like, you know, he's got a great chin, and you know, he's a bigger man than me. And I think that kind of is another issue for Ben. Like myself, he's a smaller man than Eubank, really, and you know, hitting the bigger guys mostly it's harder to knock him out, you know. But he's a good fighter. Eubank's a very good fighter. You know, he's a fit guy. He's fast. He's strong. You know, he's very, very good.
If you know, how would you approach that fight now, and how would Conor Ben approach that fight?
I think Ben has just got to kind of attack him. I can't see him outboxing him unless Eubank gasses out, you know, and maybe Ben can win the early rounds just with a ferocious start. But Eubank is very capable of that himself, you know, of being ferocious and being fast, as I learned myself. But I think, yeah, Ben maybe needs to start quick and try win the exchange. He probably is that bit quicker. He's a smaller guy. He's younger. He might be a bit quicker than Eubank, possibly. And then hope that Eubank tires out and that he's gassed out and that he can continue to win the rounds. But you know, I just don't see it. I think Eubank is just ultimately too good for him. It's too big and too good.
Eubank stop him?
I think potentially he could if he's like maybe if he gets back to 90%. Let's say, I know he's saying he'll be 60%, but if he does get back to 90%
now, I think it's 30. He's gone down, so he's fighting at 30% now.
You know what? I genuinely though, I can't see him. That's the truth. I believe like he can't be 100%. He will not be 100%. That, in my opinion, he will not be 100% because coming down to 157 and the rehydration clause on top of it, as I say, I'm not exactly sure what that is exactly, but definitely the coming down to 157 is going to kick the shit out of him, and so he's not going to be 100%. But I think if he can get back to 90%, I think he'll stop Ben. I think he'll stop him. Yeah.
What do you make of the mind games? Yeah, you were you experienced that a little bit. I mean, yeah, we all remember your kiss during during you and Eubank's lead up to the fight. But what have you made of Eubank's I mean, the videos on social media of him eating chicken and going out and eating steak with yeah, big London restaurants. What have you made of all that?
I think he's very, very good at mind games, Eubank, to be fair. And the reason I actually gave him the kiss was he got the better of me and the gloves were off, and the gloves were off. I think it went on for quite some time longer than they actually showed on the you know, that of the edited parts that they gave him. He was the home fighter, so they gave him the best parts. They showed, you know, more than any parts I've won. But I will admit that he outspoke me in the gloves are off,
What did
and
they
he
miss?
won.
What did they miss?
I can't really recall now, to be honest. Like,
Oh,
but
come on.
it's a long time, and I took
Yeah.
many punches that night and many since. But no, like I just thought at the time, I remember saying like they only showed all his parts, and if a fight seemed to get the better of any parts, maybe they weren't as eager to show those. But anyway, I think, as I say, he got the better of it anyway, and I felt as though I needed to get some psychological edge back on him. And I recall we went on several press conferences for that fight actually, and I remember throughout them all, he'd never do a face off with me because he said I seen him kiss a man once. And, you know, I was at the kissing Anthony Fitzgerald back in 2014, a year before I fought Eubank, you know, and I don't know why he just seemed to have some sort of a hang up about it, you know. So I thought, fuck it, he's after getting the better of me kind of psychologically, and the gloves are off, so I'm gonna have to try and get this something back. And I kissed him then, like, you know, and it really got him bad, you know, because I remember after the fight ended as well, when the fight was over, when he stopped me, he said, you know, before he shook hands or something like that, he was like, "Are you gonna apologize to me for that kiss?" You know, it was still fucking on his mind. Like I say, it probably still is, to be honest, the way he was fucking so bad about it. Like, but yeah, I apologized to him anyway. I said, look, look, you know, it was mind games, like, you know what I mean? So
It's all fun and games. But where does the winner go and where does the loser go in this fight, Gary?
I'm not so sure. I mean, Eubank is ranked number 3 in the world in box track, you know, so I suppose he's potentially a world title challenger anyway. I don't think that this fight, though, you know, is like a world middleweight eliminator, because, you know, Ben's not a middleweight. I think Ben, when he probably gets beat, you know, it's a win-win for Ben. I mean, you know, when he loses, he's too small. He was maybe, you know, too inexperienced at that level, you know, maybe too young. He's, what is he, 20, 26, maybe not too young, but I think anyway there won't be too much damage done. Like, he's become far more known. He's going to make a lot of money. He can come back a welterweight, and, you know, he may, if he does somewhat good in the fight, he might potentially get, you know, in line maybe for a world title eliminator or world title fight, maybe at a welterweight.
And what about Eubank if he wins?
As I say, I don't see it as an actual world title eliminator, because Ben is not a middleweight. But I think, you know, Eubank is ranked number 3 in the middleweight division. So, I mean, what's next for him? Who knows? I'm not so sure, but you know, he could fight. I'd like to see him maybe fight Golovkin. You know, well, I think that could be a good fight.
Do you think he will retire if he loses, Ben? I know Eubank.
I do, yeah. I think, although he may come out with, like, which I think would be credible, he might say, look, I was fucked making 157. I was completely screwed. I was at 10%, you know. He could say something like that. And which I think could be somewhat credible, that he will really, really struggle, in my opinion. You know, as I say, he struggled to make 160 against me back in 215 7 years ago. So I think he's going to really struggle to make 157. May the best man win, I guess, anyway, you know, and best luck to both, and I hope they get to go home safely to their families, and it's the most important thing.